Lost Spring, Part 1. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. The first part of Lost Spring by Anees Jung introduces us to Saheb Alam, a young boy from the slums of Simapuri, Delhi. His name means Lord of the Universe, but in reality, he is a poor rag picker, struggling to survive. The author meets Saheb every morning, walking through the garbage dumps with his friends, barefoot. When she asks, "Why aren't you wearing chappals?" he shrugs and says, "My mother didn't give them to me." Some other boys say it is a tradition. They have always walked barefoot. But the reality is simple. They are too poor to afford shoes. This shows how poverty forces children to accept hardships as normal. They hide their struggles behind excuses, but deep down, they know the truth. Saheb and hundreds of other children scavenge through garbage every day, hoping to find something valuable. Maybe a rupee, a coin, or even something to eat. The author observes, for the elders, garbage is a means of survival, a way to earn money and feed their families. For the children, garbage is like a treasure hunt, full of surprises, hope, and even small joys. This highlights how poverty forces children to find joy in what others throw away. The families living in Simapuri came from Dhaka, Bangladesh, fleeing poverty and natural disasters like floods that destroyed their land. They have no official identity, no documents, no rights, only a ration card that gives them food. They have lived there for over 30 years, but nothing has changed. The biggest irony? Saheb and the other rag pickers don't even know the meaning of the word garbage. They only know that it gives them food, money, and sometimes a bit of joy. One day, the author sees Saheb working at a tea stall. He now earns 800 per month and gets meals. But something is different. His carefree smile has disappeared. Earlier, as a rag picker, Saheb was his own master. He worked when he wanted, played when he wanted, and had no boss. But now he has lost that freedom. He now wears shoes, but he has lost something more precious, his innocence. The author notices that he carries a heavy steel canister that is too big for his small hands. She ends the story by saying, Saheb is no longer his own master. Even though he has a stable job, he has lost his childhood, freedom, and joy. This is the harsh reality of child labor, where children are forced to work instead of learning, dreaming, and growing. Lost Spring Part 2, I Want to Drive a Car. In the second part of Lost Spring, we move from the slums of Simapuri to Firozabad, India's largest bangle-making hub. Here we meet Mukesh, a young boy born into a family of glass bangle makers, who, despite all odds, dares to dream of a different life. Before we talk about Mukesh, let's understand the town of Firozabad and its deep connection with the glass bangle industry. Firozabad is the biggest center of bangle making in India. Almost every family is engaged in this work. The city is known for its traditional glass-blowing factories, where workers create beautiful bangles worn by Indian brides. But behind the beauty of these bangles lies a dark reality: child labor, poverty, and hazardous working conditions. The factories are hot, dark, and suffocating. Workers spend long hours near burning furnaces, inhaling toxic fumes, and many lose their eyesight before they even become adults. Despite these dangers, generations of families continue this work, not because they love it, but because they have no choice. The glass bangle industry in Firozabad is a symbol of tradition and exploitation, a cycle that traps families for generations. Mukesh belongs to one of these bangle-making families, but unlike most children in Firozabad, he has a dream. He wants to become a motor mechanic and drive a car. The author is surprised because most children in Firozabad never think beyond their reality. They accept their fate. But Mukesh is determined and tells the author, "I will go to a garage and learn to be a mechanic." Even though his house is in a narrow, dusty lane with no cars, he dares to dream of driving one. Mukesh represents hope and ambition. He is one of the few who want to break free from tradition. Seeing the terrible working conditions, the author asks the bangle makers, "Why don't you organize yourselves into a cooperative?" She wonders why they don't come together and fight for better wages and working conditions. Their response? They fear the system. The bangle industry is controlled by powerful middlemen, moneylenders, politicians, and police. If they try to organize a cooperative, they will be beaten, jailed, or worse. This shows how oppression and fear keep the poor trapped. Even if they want to change their situation, they cannot fight against the system alone. As the author talks to the families, she realizes something powerful: two distinct worlds in Firozabad. The first world, the Bangle makers, who are poor, helpless, and trapped in tradition. The second world, the wealthy middlemen, moneylenders, and corrupt officials who exploit them and keep them poor. This contrast shows the brutal gap between the rich and the poor. One group controls the industry, while the other suffers under it. The author feels helpless as she realizes that the cycle of poverty and child labor will continue unless something drastic changes. Key takeaways from Lost Spring: poverty and helplessness. Both Saheb and Mukesh are trapped in a life they didn't choose. Child labor. Instead of going to school, Saheb picks garbage and Mukesh makes bangles. Systemic exploitation. The poor are controlled by the rich and powerful. Lost freedom. The power of dreams. Character analysis of Lost Spring: Saheb Alam, a rag picker in Simapuri, originally from Dhaka, Bangladesh. Saheb represents millions of poor children who are forced into child labor. Mukesh, a boy who dares to dream. Born into a bangle-making family in Firozabad, trapped in generational poverty. He stands out because he has a vision for a better life. The families of Simapuri and Firozabad, trapped in poverty. Their struggles show that poverty is not just about money, it's about hopelessness, lack of education, and systemic oppression. The exploiters, the invisible oppressors, middlemen, politicians, moneylenders, and corrupt officials keep the poor under control. Anees Jung ends Lost Spring with an open question. Will children like Saheb and Mukesh ever escape poverty, or will the world continue to ignore their suffering? And that's the complete summary of Lost Spring. If this helped, like, share, and subscribe for more exam-focused videos. Thank you so much.